Hello! Welcome everyone to the Chirp YouTube channel. My name is Christy and I am your friendly online speech-language pathologist and specialist in children's communication development, including behavior, because behavior is a type of communication. In our previous series that we just finished, because I decided that it is finished, which was on simple strategies you can use to improve interactions, we ended on the theme of challenging behavior. And I would like to continue on that theme by doing a series specifically about steps that I would take if I were a person who had a child, perhaps, a grandchild, perhaps, or a student who was recently introduced into my life or who recently started displaying signs of serious behavior challenges. Most of the time, these things do not come on all of a sudden. Most of the time, a family will just look at each other and say, this is really affecting us on a daily basis. We need to proactively put some things into place. Where do we start? This is what I hope that series will sort of jumpstart for you. Before we start with the main part of this video, I need to say that there are some situations in which challenging behavior begins very suddenly, and that needs to be an alert for you. If a child from birth has been a little bit difficult, if a child has another diagnosis, such as an autism spectrum disorder, if a child has demonstrated issues in the past, but you're just getting around to tackling it, that's one thing. If your child has been reasonably calm most of his life and suddenly you're noticing much more defiant behavior or aggression, these are things that need to be checked out by a doctor, because I have some stories for you. In a continuing education class I just went to, they mentioned a child who had been reasonably calm. She did have a diagnosis of an autism spectrum disorder, but her behavior had not been anything of concern outside typical diagnosis stuff. And then all of a sudden she became paranoid, she became very aggressive, and she became oppositional. And they discovered she had an underlying infection that needed to be treated that had caused brain swelling. You have a problem with your brain, your behavior is going to suffer. A situation from my own life, which I have mentioned in previous videos, a child I had been working with also had a diagnosis of an autism spectrum disorder, but who had been making good progress, was controlling himself very well in the classroom, until all of a sudden he wasn't, and his behavior escalated and became much, much worse. He had a brain tumor. So there are instances where behavior is not behavior, it's a response to something going on in the brain. And in fact, a lot of times it's more like that than it is like a child just is sassy because she wants to be. Most of the time, challenging behavior is something internal to the child that we need to learn how to assess and how to respond to in a way that helps the child learn how to calm herself down. We're not trying to punish. We're not doing discipline. We're doing self-management techniques. We're learning how to manage the child so that she can manage herself. Now, let us move on to the other part of the video, which is, what would I do first? If I decided this is the time I would like to start working on these challenging behaviors that I'm seeing in my child or my student or another child I know in my life who might not be biologically mine, what would I do first? The first thing that I would do would be to create a predictable schedule. Schedules can definitely decrease challenging behavior. And we know this because there have been studies done on this very topic. Quite a few studies, in fact. I just looked. I was looking for some kind of a percentage because I have read varied different percentages of how much challenging behavior can decrease when a predictable schedule is introduced into the child's life. But I can't find consistent numbers, so I'm not going to mention any, so as not to lead anyone astray. But I do want to say that I have seen this work over and over and over, and it helps with communication as well, because you can begin to tell children, even children who are nonverbal and who seem to have very limited cognitive abilities so far, with a visual schedule, you can communicate when things are going to change in the environment. And this is where I need to say, there are people who really crave excitement. They crave change because it's an opportunity to be a different self or whatever. And then there are people who crave stability because they know what to expect. This is most of the people who have diagnoses of various kinds. People who are neuroatypical prefer sameness, sometimes to the point of it being a problem because it triggers challenging behaviors when things change, or because they don't get outside of their routines enough to form relationships or have successful jobs, or because they have difficulty transitioning from one classroom to the next, or from mom and dad's house to grandma's house when it's time to visit grandma, or they won't eat a wide variety of food. There are lots of problems that can come from insistence on sameness. But there are ways in which it is very helpful to people who are not neurotypical, and in fact to all of us. We all like sameness in some ways. We don't want to wake up every day and have our surroundings be completely different. That would be terrible. There are science fiction movies about this. You wake up every different day and you're in a different environment. Our brains don't function well with that kind of change, that kind of major change all the time. And this is for neurotypical people who function easier in the world. For people who are not neurotypical, they need some amount of consistency in order to plan how they're going to manage themselves in any particular circumstance. It's more difficult to communicate. It's more difficult to stay calm. It's more difficult to get your sensory needs met if you're neuroatypical. And therefore, you kind of want to know what to expect in any particular day so you can mete out the energy required to succeed in that day. This is why a visual schedule can be so helpful. You can set the schedule together at night before bed. I do recommend a visual schedule. You can use line drawing such as these. You can take pictures of activities with your digital camera, and you can laminate them if you wish and put them with Velcro on the wall of your child's bedroom. This is what I did with families when I worked in their homes. I would make a visual schedule for the whole family. I would make a schedule in the bathroom. Here's how you need to get ready every morning. I would make a schedule before bed. Here's what we do before bed. And those are called schedules within schedules or mini schedules. An overall schedule is the activities of the day. We wake up. We put our clothes on, depending on how your family does this. We eat breakfast. We get our backpack, we put our water lunch in there, we put our shoes on, we go to the bus stop. And from then on, it becomes the school's responsibility, but within that, we probably need smaller schedules too. A schedule for, like I said, what you do in the bathroom to get ready for school. We don't want anyone to forget to brush their teeth. What we need when we are packing our school bag. We're going to need our water bottle. We're going to need our lunch bag. We're going to need whatever our homework was, or our books, or our communication strategies. We're going to need our schedule for the rest of the day in visual format, which you can send in some kind of a binder if you wish. I have very small flip books that are about this big with a spiral binding. You can find all of this stuff at an office supply center or at Amazon, with little line drawings of each activity that we're going to do in my classroom, and kids can hold it. They can carry it with them. They can clip it on their pants if they wish, or on their backpack. You can have flip charts that sit on a child's desk at school. Usually, we take down a picture off the wall after it's done, which is why Velcro is helpful. We can also use a blue goo or earthquake stick-em type stuff to stick things on the wall if you wish. There are lots of options. You can have a big laminated board and you put things on. You can use magnets if you have a fridge, or magnetic paint on your child's wall. You can stick things on chalkboards. There is an endless supply of ideas about how to manage visual schedules. But this is the one thing that I would get under control if I were trying to manage a child's behavior, and this was my first step. Create a visual schedule and keep on modifying it until it seems appropriate. We don't need to go into a huge amount of detail immediately. We probably need to have 10 to 15 things throughout the day on the schedule. If you're at home in the morning and the evening, then you just need morning and evening parts to the schedule, and in the middle is school or programming or whatever, wherever it is that this child goes. And of course, we need to change the schedules on the weekends because there's no thing in the middle. And this is when things can be very helpful. We can teach our children, we should always put at the top, today's Monday. Monday, here is the schedule. And we would do this before bed at night. Before bed at night, we'd go in the bedroom, we get in our jammies, we brush our teeth, and then I sit down on the edge of the bed and I say, okay, this is Sunday. Okay, tomorrow is Monday. And I put the Monday sticker up there. It's helpful to have a little visual that goes along with Monday. You can pick animal for each day of the week. You can pick a nature symbol for each day of the week, because there really aren't great symbols for the days of the week. Just pick something. Let's say it's a sunshine. Monday, happy Monday. It's a sunshine day. Tomorrow we're going to wake up, eat breakfast. You're going to go through the schedule and you're going to put the things on the schedule. You're going to talk about them as you're doing them. This all depends on your child's attention span, of course. But you're going to, either in short term or in long term, you're going to talk through the schedule for the next day. Then your child will go to bed. And when she wakes up in the morning, you will be there and you will say, "Good morning, wake up is finished." And you'll take it down and put it in a little bin at the bottom of the schedule. I like to go from top to bottom usually because it takes up less space. But if you have room to go right to left, that's even better, because in English, that is how we read. We read from left to right. So it's helpful to start that habit early. Then you go through the entire week this way, but on Friday night, when you're putting your child to bed, you're going to put Saturday at the top of the schedule. Saturday, and it's going to be different. Perhaps the Saturday is printed in a different color. Maybe the weekends are both the same color if you do a similar thing each day, or maybe the weekends are two different colors, because Saturday is more of a family and play day and Sunday is more of a chores day, or maybe Sunday you have church at some point and then after that everyone takes naps. Whatever it is, you're going to want to indicate on the actual word at the top of the schedule that this is a different day from weekdays. And you're going to talk about why it's different when you set up the schedule the night before. So on Friday night, you're going to say Saturday. Saturday. Wake up, And then maybe we lounge in our pajamas and eat pancakes until noon. I don't know what your family does, but talk about that. Set the expectation that your child will be able to accurately predict what is coming the following day. Of course, if your child needs, and I'm sure your child does because all humans do, if your child needs sensory time, put that in the schedule so your child knows, I'm having trouble holding myself together right now, but as soon as lunch is over, I will get to swing. And I know swinging makes me feel better. It's one of my favorite things. Or I know I have to brush my teeth, which I hate, and most kids do. But after I brush my teeth, I get to jump on the trampoline. And that is one of my favorite things. That will help me calm down again. Even if kids are not logically processing these thoughts, their brains do kind of understand, and they're able to better hold themselves together when they know something is coming that is going to help them. And that is one of the major reasons why visual schedules are helpful. Kids can predict what's coming, and they can better organize their personal energy to be able to handle themselves because they know what's coming, because it's predictable. If you are doing mini schedules, which I highly recommend, and I'll tell you why in a moment, post them either on a movable board, a cardboard box lid, or a small binder so that they can be taken with you, or post them in the spot where they will be used. For example, the bathroom. If you have a bathroom morning checklist or an evening checklist, put it in the bathroom. One of the reasons why I love mini schedules is because of a child I'm going to call Marcus. Marcus was one of my students when I worked in the public schools in a preschool program for children with autism, and he was delightful. And he followed the classroom schedule perfectly. He loved it so much. He came in with quite a few behaviors. Once he got used to the schedule and how it worked, his behaviors almost completely went away, which was amazing. And the only time we saw behaviors after that was on the playground. We would go out to the playground for maybe, 20 minutes or something. These were very small children. We didn't do heavy learning. We did a lot of play-based learning, a lot of games, a lot of motor activities like art things and building. And we spent a good amount of time on the playground because these children had social delays and we needed them to be working on things like taking turns, using other children's names, using words at all. Some of them did not use any language verbally at that time. So we spent a lot of time on the playground. And this little guy, even though his behavior was pretty much perfect in the classroom, when he got on the playground, he was a wild man. He would run around, he would try to climb the fence, which is not allowed. He would push other children down, he would throw sand, he would throw toys at other children, he would climb up the slide, which we all know is unacceptable. He would stand on the swings, not safe. He just didn't seem to follow any of the rules that we had. And I had been to a conference, and one of the things they said was use mini schedules, not just the main schedule, for areas where children are struggling. And so I thought, okay, fine. I don't really know how to do this because I don't want to make choices for him of what he can do and when during his free playground time. So what I did instead was I made a choice board of different activities that could take place on the playground. Swinging, sliding, playing in the sand, running around the perimeter of the fence. I don't remember what the other ones were. Those were the main ones, I think. And then I set a timer. So I think I started it with 2 minutes. Every 2 minutes, the timer would go off and we'd say, okay, all done swinging. What's next? And he would pick the next thing off the list and do that for 2 minutes. And it was miraculous what happened. His behavior completely stopped, and we were able to expand the time that he chose, the time that he was able to do whatever activity it was that he chose. We slowly expanded that and expanded it until eventually he didn't need the timer anymore, and he was able to switch between activities of his own volition without any aggression, without any wildness, without breaking any of the safety rules. He simply behaved as a typical child would on the playground. He still had autism. He still had some communication delays. He still had some social deficits, but he didn't have that behavior problem of being totally out of control without a schedule. And this is one of the reasons why I love schedules. It's because it helps kids to organize themselves. Children who don't naturally follow social cues very well feel out of control. And if they have too many options, a lot of times, any of us with too many options feels a little bit out of control. We don't know what to do first if we have 20 options. We don't know what to eat first if we have 100 things on the buffet line. Some of us know exactly what to do, but many of us just walk back and forth going, there's too many choices. Think about your television watching habits, or perhaps your YouTube watching habits. If you have all of the videos in the world to watch, it's hard to pick one. If you have 5 videos to watch, you can pretty much rate them in order of which one you would prefer to do. And that is what helped my sweet little Marcus to behave better on the playground and not hurt anyone, including himself. And that is the value of mini schedules in certain environments that might be more confusing to some of our kids. So, this is your call to create a schedule for this child you're thinking about. Maybe it's your whole classroom. Maybe your whole classroom, if you're a teacher, needs a schedule. I would be shocked if there are any elementary school teachers who don't have a schedule. It seems like obvious best practice to me, but I am a special educator, and therefore my best practices are probably very different from a typical teacher. However, I recommend every classroom, every home have some kind of a visual schedule because it's so helpful. I bet you will see changes in your child's behavior starting immediately, but I will be back next time with what I would choose as my next step if I were trying to tackle my child's challenging behavior. Thank you for being here. I would appreciate a thumbs up if you feel like it, or maybe you could subscribe. And don't forget to check out the CHIRP curriculum if you would like to teach your child in a way appropriate to his or her learning styles some spiritual truths. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye.